you. All right, we're good, Mayor.
Okay, hey, I'm going to kick this off. I apologize. We're a few minutes late. There's just been a lot going on in our city. I do want to start off with a couple of things, and if I'm moving this meeting along fairly quickly, I have a celebration of life for probably one of my best friends, and probably somebody who's most influential in my life, who passed away about 2 weeks ago. So I've got a celebration of life this afternoon downtown that Kathy and I have to go to. But hey, I apologize for our delay of these coffees. We've had the Hurricane Beryl, as well as we've had a pretty major fire, let alone as we saw. For those who haven't seen it, we've had ABC News that basically has given visibility to a problem that we've been struggling with for a while. But I believe we've got an action plan to really help out some tenants, both from a health standpoint and from what I believe are some improper evictions as a part of this whole public health issue. But again, I don't want to repeat so much of yesterday, but the city has finally, I think, turned the corner on the cleanup for Hurricane Beryl. There were a lot of challenges that we've had. I think the city staff, and particularly Paul and Sherry, did a good job making sure that we expended funds that we get reimbursed from FEMA, so that we were only out of pocket as little as possible. I think we mentioned yesterday that the city expended about $400,000 on the debris cleanup, of which, given the actions taken, we'll get back about $300,000 of that. So we'll have expended about $100,000. And what I really appreciate is the challenges when we were trying to do that. We saw it was still going slowly, and Paul and I, we kind of circled the wagons and said, hey, we've got the money in the budget. Let's get more assets here. Let's get it expedited. And if you were aware of how things went, we had this period of very fast cleanup, and then all of a sudden it slowed down to a stop. And that stop was because the landfill because of all the rain, had mudslides and things. They could not receive debris from anywhere. So it closed down everybody's efforts. So we struggled through that for about 4 days, and then we came back up, and you saw it got cleaned up very quickly after that. We know about the bag issues and things along that line. I think all those things are learnings that will help facilitate even better if we have another one. And yes, there's another tropical trough out in the Gulf right now. So the rush hour, as I like to say it, for hurricanes is basically starting up in about a week, from the middle of August to the end of September. So please get a plan. You just do not have the lead time to be able to react if you don't have a plan to begin with. The other thing too is we verified again some very, very fundamental areas that we have to improve. If you look at our ability to manage, the flooding and things like that, it has its core at how well we maintain our berms to a certain height. We've targeted for the perimeter of the city to have 6 feet of berm height in order to be able to keep the water from overflowing or breaching our berms. And the other is power. I'm still very frustrated that we have to rely on one generator, basically, and you've got a spare one, I know, but it's very tough to get that out at the times. But we have only one real generator to rely on that does Port Royal. Everything else, one center point gives up the ghost, and we have a power outage. our pumps are worthless. And not only that, when the height comes up, the water reverses flow and we actually fill up like a fishbowl. So that is our problem, and we know it. We've got projects that are geared to be able to mitigate that. You know, we've two in particular, which is to dredge Lake Nassau and put in some very large pipes, large pumps, as well as electrifying all along Upper Bay Road and upgrading those pumps, because not only is there not power that's backed up by a generator, it's 220 single phase power, which means it really curtails the size of pumps. We just don't have the juice. So we again revalidated that those are the challenges that are in front of us, and I hope during my time as mayor we'll fix those. Other than that, I don't know if you'd like to chime in a little bit. I don't want to just repeat yesterday.
Yeah, just what the mayor talked about. We're ready for any storms coming our way. We've got 3 massive pumps that we're able to get out and deploy immediately. And some of the big projects coming up, David Braun basketball court will be getting painted August 19th to the 30th. So we'll get that out there and get that closed down. And then, Mayor, I did get some dates on the Nassau Waterline project, the $1 million project. It looks like we'll start construction December.
That's perfect.
Yes, yeah.
That's perfect.
And so
that's ahead of schedule.
Yeah, and that's a big project we've been looking forward to. It's about $1 million, and this is FEMA funds. It will increase the header coming out of the water plant, shooting down Point Lookout, and then Saturn all the way to the Hilton. So that'll increase from a 10-inch, an old 10-inch line, to a 12-inch line, more capacity, more pressure. And then after that, we'll follow up with the 4 miles of water line. It looks like that's going to be, we will award the contract in March. And so around April.
That one's behind.
Yeah. So that one's behind. And so it's going to, looks like the first project will be finished around July.
Just for, and the people have heard us before, but I always like to take the opportunity to give this. Paul is very soft-spoken in some of the things that we're doing. The reason why we're doing that header that he mentioned from Upper Bay Road all the way to the Hilton is we had a audit by the insurance rating group. It's ISO. It's not the traditional ISO what people know, but our audit this past year came out where we were precipitously close to losing a level of our rating. The ratings improve as you go down, so we're currently at a level 2, and a level 1 is the best you can have. So we're right there. But for the first time, we're at the real threat of moving to a level 3, which for our citizens means that insurance will use that as a means to raise your insurance rates. They will say that you don't have the things in place that would properly or not properly just will decrease the efficiency by which you can put out a fire, so to speak. So the aggregated cost of all our citizens for those increased insurance rates would be about $300,000 a year. So the two things that were done were, one, the pressure in our water grid was too low in certain areas, that the amount of flow from that pressure out of a fire hydrant was I'll just say it, is poor, mediocre at best. So what he's doing is he's enlarging this header, as I call it. It'll increase the amount of water that's in our system, and because it's capped, unless you put on your faucets and things like that, the pressure goes up, which means that pressure going up resolve the problems associated with the audit. And it's $1 million of investment that we're making into the city to do that. Big payback on that, because not only do we make sure we protect people's homes, but anybody who's lived in Nassau Bay knows that when you turn on your faucet or turn on your shower, it is not the best pressure in the world. So you will see a noticeable increase when you take a shower. The other is with all the lifting of homes and things along that line, we've created what I consider safety challenges for our volunteer fire department. Homes that used to be 2 stories or 3 stories. We've had like the Methodist administration building go up. We've got the Moody buildings going up. And it came out in this audit that our lack of having a ladder truck in our fire department was a liability. And even though we use things through mutual aid, in a fire or in a safety situation, time is imperative. And so we bellied up to the plate this last budget cycle, and we were able to put down a purchase order for a $3.2 million ladder truck. So we are moving forward with that, and it's not being built yet, but it's certainly in the queue to being built. Oh yes, thank you. What Paul just gave here too is hey, you did it. So,
oh, okay.
You guys organized
okay.
it. No,
we're having we turned away I think I don't know how many people, 60 something, maybe 100 people for the last hurricane preparedness workshop. So we're having another one Tuesday, the 20th this month at here. We're able to hold a little bit more people, and so we're going to be going over. We're going to change it up a little bit, go over how to prepare, but then also what we've learned from Beryl. So there's flyers. I'm sorry. What time? It's going to be 6:30 to 8, and there's the flyers out at the back.
And they'll be watch our website, watch our Facebook.
Yeah, we'll be pushing out.
We usually had 10 people show.
8, max 8 since I've been here. 8.
We've stepped up our communications. I know this has been a priority for at least Paul and I, maybe communicating. We used our rave system. We had a cap, I believe, of 130 people that could be in the fire department conference area or training area, and I swear almost 200 people showed up, and there was a little bit of emotion because we literally had a fire restriction on the number of people in the fire in the firehouse, so that didn't go over very well. And there's been a large cry to do that, so I really appreciate staff and Sherry doing, making sure that's done. But I don't want to get off one thing because I really, as we went through this was it was a strong storm. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, if we had power, and that's going to cost, we're going to get there. And if we had our berms, we would have made sure that the water would not have gotten in our streets, and we certainly would have been able to bring it down so that our evacuation routes were good. But I also really, really appreciate the citizens, because I cannot believe how fast people, once they got the word out that debris collection was coming, how they cleaned their yards, how they piled it in front, out by the street. And I know there was people saying, should it be on the grass? Should it be on the street? Be on the grass? Should it be on the street? And the right answer to that is on the street. But I also want to make sure that when things are done like that we don't destroy people's yards. So it's something we probably have to clarify more. But the town looked great. People jumped out, and then we were able to get the debris out, and it just was the city came together. And Pastor Dan, you're here. If people don't know, we have the senior pastor of Gloria Day here. They reached out to the city, wanting to know how to help, and they offered to open up the Gloria Day as a cooling center. They had gotten power back before pretty much the city, everywhere in the city. I don't know how you did it, where you had internet and stuff like that. I mean, I'm just saying, but I know of it. I'm aware of at least 150 people that participated in that generosity and that offer to be a part of the community. And I know it was sorely needed, and a lot of people were relieved, particularly some people who were vulnerable. Some of our senior citizens, as well as some little youngsters, and I appreciate that intensely. the other is I can't pass on a plug for the chainsaw gang too. So Gloria Day has a group that is specifically trained. It's not like, and I made a kind of a humorous thing. It's not like Joe Sixpack going boom out there. They actually train during the off hurricane season so that people have the equipment. They're familiar with equipment. They're familiar with doing that. And for no charge, they go out, and it happened in Nassau Bay. It happened in other communities. Glory Day is obviously bigger than just Nassau Bay, and their chainsaw gang helped out, people who had some pretty large trees that hit, and those are difficult if you're 70, 80 years old, or just a family where you have to work and it's a big tree. And it is in my intent to torque up the chainsaw gang with as much equipment as we can that the city can do, because that helps out everybody, and that's a good partnership. So I thank you and the team for
that. One other thing that we're doing this year is we were proposed to have a one or two extra parks employees because of all the trees. When it rains, these trees are just it's a lot to trim. So what we did was we hired 2 part-time people for 3 months, and their job from Monday through Thursday is just to trim trees. And so we're going to try this. I think it's cost effective. We don't have to have a full-time additional person, equipment, trucks, insurance, all that. So we're pretty excited about this, and they've just been tackling all these streets and start trimming everything. So we're pretty excited for that. Some of the other things we got coming along, we're just really focused coming to the end of the year on our big water line projects, trying to kick off a sewer line projects. We're right in the middle of budget. So that's really good at this time. Got some new staff employees we're pretty excited for. And everything seems to be coming along great. We've learned a lot from this hurricane. Borough, we're trying to get the state to pass where we can use Howard Ward Park as a staging debris area. That will keep the trucks from running out of the city, coming back, unloading, coming back. If we do that, we could probably double the time that we had to clean up the city. So we're pretty excited for that. And the rest, just as the mayor mentioned, we're pretty busy with everything going on. We got council meeting Monday night, and I'm working with Centerpoint and actually have a meeting with them, I think, end of next week, and then we're going to go over some things. And I'm being introduced to the new representative in this regional area. So, and if anybody don't know, our wastewater plant, 3 transformers, 2 poles got knocked down, and gave them a call, and within probably 3 days we got that plant up and going. And so that was, I think,
But you had a generator.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we never lost. We never lost the power, and them generators actually serve David Braun Park, everything from the lighting to the park lighting. And so we wanted to hurry up and get that back up for the residents. So, yeah, that's all I have. Just really, really busy.
Can't not mention that there's a lot of activity directed at the Sapphire Apartments right now. There are citizens who have very, how should I say, challenging health environment, and the city is doing everything in its power to make sure that we address those and address it with the owners and management of the Sapphire Apartments. We've had a inspection of 8 apartments for an unannounced inspection, where we were invited by the residents of those apartments. So that's the only way we can get into the apartments. We don't have the authority just to do a investigation without being asked in. And I can't go without mentioning. I know her as Brittany Taylor, but Brittany is the Zepeda, and I always pronounce that wrong, so I apologize, Brittany. You're probably even watching right now, but she is a Galveston's City of Galveston police officer who was the courtesy officer at the Sapphire. And she's the one who's been very pivotal in organizing our ability to see the situation through the tenant's eyes. And it has given us authority that we haven't had in the past, as we were talking earlier. And I tend to take that to its logical conclusion, whether it's 8, 50, or the whole building. If there's that type of infestation, and what I see is a systematic, how should I say, systematic breakdown in their maintenance of some of the practices that I saw. They have a lot they need to fix in order to say that that's safe for those individuals.
It's almost as if the cost of fixing it is horrendous. They're better off tearing down and starting over.
I think that's right. And I'm also, just for those here, I'm very aware of our ordinances that say whether it's from a flood or any repair whatsoever, if you just renovate your house or if you have to fix up a public health situation at an apartment complex, if the cost of that fix up is greater than 50% plus $1, but every aspect of it has to be brought up to code.
Yes.
It cannot be great. It loses their grandfather clause. So that to me is going to be even its elevation. Our city has to have every structure that is built or has to, is renovated past 50, has to be at a base flood elevation of 17 feet plus 2. So that's a very important threshold that we all need to have in front of us, that if that happens, it is, and again, I'll say it, I believe those buildings are past their useful life, and I think they actually are now a public health danger to at least the inspections we had to the 8, and that's a common air conditioning system. So I have to believe it's broader than that, but I have no data to support that yet.
When I was flooded with ice and they came in and tore up the drywall, just in that short time, the amount of black mold that came into the drywall, because I saw it when they cut it out.
Yeah.
I can just imagine.
I saw two things that really was appalling is because I was, both Paul and I were at each one of those inspections. Many times there's negative pressure inside the apartments, which is a sign of something really bad. The other is I've never ever seen mushrooms growing out of a wall before.
Oh, yeah.
I've never ever seen that. Pardon me?
Is it contained to one building or both?
Right now, I believe we were primarily in building 2, but I thought we did go into 2 in building 1. So yeah, it's in. I believe it's primarily 1, but we had some exposure in the other 2.
Are they all same chiller system or same?
There, if I remember, and I have to, I believe there's a individual chiller system per building. So it's a common asset providing HVAC for each individual building, not room, air that's done where you have a coil and things along that in your room. It's a.
So you have more issues. You don't have the mold. There may be. All over the place.
So I believe there's a systematic issue here for maintenance.
Wow.
It is a common chiller system. We found it in 8 apartments, and we had documentation from at least 2 reputable laboratories that analyze the areas suspected of mold and confirm there are very large colonies of some of the mold's most toxic. So it's an issue, and it is my intent to find out exactly the extent And our city attorney has been very clear to me that I've got to be very careful that we only talk about the facts that we know. And that gives us the authority to be able to talk and do things because facts speak for themselves, and we'll take it where it goes. And I'm not concerned with the perception people may have of Nassau Bay. I don't know who had ABC 13 come out, but it doesn't surprise me. And the more we shine light on this, the more I believe we help the citizens. And that's what this government is meant for: public safety, public health. So I welcome any type of visibility to really, at the end of the day, help those tenants get the justice or the actions needed to protect their families.
You know, if any of the residents are sick, or do they have any recourse?
So so that's some of the reasons that this is coming out is there's been a, at least from the tenant's perspective, that there's been, every time they've complained and tried to get out of the lease, the management company threatens if they don't pay, that they will put it on their credit rating and destroy the credit rating of the folks. I even know with some of the things going on, there's some what I call evictions because of lack of payment, and some of the things because of some of moving them between stuff, which I think is just horrendous. I mean that they move from a contaminated one to another and have to pay moving fees. They don't help out. They do things, and in the process, they're going over. I know one instance where somebody's had to move twice or 3 apartments in like a month and a half, and the cost that they have, and she's late, and I think we had 4 or 5 people that had been given eviction notice, which you can only shake your head. I see everybody shaking their head. It's just to have that policy, and so the city is able, if we're successful, and we'll know a lot early next week, the actions we take would mitigate their ability to do those improper evictions. So to me, that's the 2 things that are driving us, me personally, is make sure people are safe and make sure people aren't evicted improperly.
Okay, so the people who are affected right now, at least,
Yes.
are they having to find alternate place to live? How
So-
are they having to fix it?
Yes. So
They're not.
So part of the responsibility that I understand, I'm not an expert here, but what I've been told is that with a rental unit for apartments, there's a specific code that has responsibility of providing a habitable place to live. And that if for whatever reason, it could be act of God or a fire. I mean, if there's things here, but if it is, then they have a responsibility to make sure the people they're contracted with have a habitable place until they can put it back to being habitable. Right? Like a hurricane. I mean, there's good. They have insurance for this. I mean, let's name it and claim it. If somebody has a fire, somebody has things that puts things out, the apartments have, not only do they require a lot of their apartment people to have rental insurance, but they have their own insurance. So there's money here to be able to be provided, or at least that's the ground I'm going out on. Maybe they knock me off, but I'm going to take that ground. So.
No, when we had Hurricane Ike, those apartments were without electricity.
Correct. 4 weeks almost. Yeah.
And thank goodness, one of the folks here at SLA got in touch with the American Red Cross.
Yeah.
And they brought in a food truck that fed lunch and dinner, and always had a water supply. You took it by the case. It was fantastic.
Yep.
But all that time, all that mold is growing.
Yeah.
And it's really, really
We
sad.
even saw some places.
Because I talked with some of the folks that were here Wednesday night after the meeting,
Mhm.
and they says, we can't afford to move.
Yeah.
They want $3,000 to break the lease.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
people
so
living there
to
don't
be
have that
and to be even
kind of
more
money.
clear, Paul, is they are asking for complete payment of the contract of the lease
Oh, yes.
in order to be able to get out of the lease, rather than saying it's a non-habitable,
Right.
location, which is what we're addressing. We have the ability now that it's in the public health.
Right.
We have a certificate of obligation, certificate of occupancy
Yes.
that has certain tenets on it, and one of those tenets is public health and life and health safety. And if that is not part of that, we have the ability to pull their occupancy permit
Mhm.
until and I think there's a very distinct period. I think it's about 10 days. Once we do that, they have 10 days to be able to justify to this gentleman. It's sorry to point at you, but it's done that way for a reason, and I support and really will help out here. But it is their responsibility to either show why we were mistaken in our actions, or to show that they have cured those actions to the satisfaction of this gentleman. And that is a power we're going to exercise.
I just appreciate this community, that
So.
you guys lead with moral authority and take care of the residents, everybody. So I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and I also suggested too, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 of those were downstairs when I went down, and I said, the mayor was quite sincere and serious about it. This was going to be a 1.5 to 2 hour executive meeting.
It is.
And
It was.
Yeah.
and I said, look, this is the start for what you folks can do as residents of those apartments. You can contact the media,
Yeah, correct.
bring them in. Channel 2 loves that stuff,
They do.
especially Amy.
So does Jessica. Jessica's taken that for ABC, has taken a real liking to
And
National
I told
Bank.
them, I said, "Look, get yourselves organized. Be there when potential
Yeah.
people want to come in to rent an apartment and say, are you aware of what you're really going to get into? And just, help the city out with not getting more tenants in.
Yeah.
And, whether that's asking a lot of an individual.
Yep.
To really get involved that way. But my goodness, if I was pregnant and I was living in that.
You're not making an announcement, are you?
Oh, I'm gonna have
And the good news here is, because we're being proactive, we're going to take an action, and they're going to have to stop us. Whereas before, we were always on the other side, trying to make them do an action. And what they say, possession is 9/10 of the law, so we're going to take that ground. Okay. Any questions? Let me turn it around. Anything, because this is a smaller group here. Usually Saturday was our bigger group. Yesterday we had 20 people. And then it's probably because we had this special meeting where, I kid you not, there were 15, I think there were 17 families, 18 families from both the Bay House and the Sapphire came
Yes.
to give evidence and give testimony.
Oh, so it's both, it's 2 apartment complexes.
We're starting to get now complaints from Bay House.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So
They're seeing that there's some action that can be taken, and all of a sudden everybody.
yeah, so I'm hopeful of 2 things, which is, one, that if this mechanism is successful to be able to help correct the situation, anybody who's in that situation just simply has to invite us to inspect their apartment so that we have the legal right to do an unannounced inspection to the benefit of that tenant, whether that's Sapphire, whether that's Bay House, or whatever. And I know right now there is one person who has said that they've complained, they've done things, and has even gone to the step, it would be the third confirmation, but done a certified laboratory for analysis for these type of molds. That result should come forward early next week. And if that is true, they want to follow the footsteps of Sapphire, and we may do an organization to say, if we're going to come out for one, who else? Because that's how you get things done. The other side is, and I'm hopeful, because we're not doing this in some sort of cavern or back room or whatever, is that the other apartment complexes and other professional, any building that has these, we've got a number of beyond their useful life buildings that aren't apartments too. So anybody who has these old buildings and has people working there, or apartments where people are living there, I hope they take notice, because we are not just focusing on anything. We're focusing, you know it, right? So I hope this has a self-fulfilling prophecy where people see what the end result will be and what the force, so they better do it proactively on their terms rather than reactively on ours. Those two things I think are at least where we're pushing.
And we got an email last night, I think, for about another 7 residents for us to visit.
Yep. So that's what I mean.
So it's I would say probably the entire, I probably spent last week half my time just
You guys
doing this.
should look at this, adding somebody just to take this on.
So that's one of the thing is our code enforcement side is going to come under some real heavy burden time wise. So and we're down one guy, and right now we do, though, lucky for us is we do have another individual who is a state certified code enforcement officer, and only thing is we don't have him full time, and we're going to clear his work schedule so that he has nothing other than dealing with across the street. Everyone's going to be an effort there until we backfill.
And then we've outsourced to an inspection company that will be doing the inspections. Yes, sir. Yep.
So that's what we're doing. We'll see where it goes. I fully expect, and I'll say this is because I'm come from the chemical industry, and when you have things that are ones where you've had impacts, you can either be a good citizen or you can be a bad citizen. That applies to Josephine, Nassau Bay, as well as any business or apartment. You're still citizens, whether you're a commercial or residential. It's time to decide whether you want to be a good citizen or a bad citizen. And that choice and that fork in the road's coming.
All right. That's all I have, Mayor.
Anything else? This gives me extra time because I got to head downtown. Thank you. Thank you.
Don't speed in Nassau Bay. That's right. We'll get you.
All right.
Thank y'all.
All righty.
Dog off here.